Okay. All right. So let's talk. The last couple shows with cannibalism and death and destruction and whatever, those are unpopular, but they're a little dark. So I want to go to an even darker place because I like to up the ante. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say let's lighten the mood, but you're like, let's go even darker.
We didn't go dark enough. That's the problem.
We need more anxiety.
More anxiety, more destruction, more death.
Great.
All right, so let's talk about death right off the gate.
Okay.
Okay, so have you kind of noticed in the news more than I can ever remember, shark attacks, animal attacks, people getting mauled by things?
Yeah.
Just yesterday, there were some scientists that were, doing their Antarctic thing and got attacked by a polar bear. I feel like we got really sort of confident that we weren't the apex predator when there are tons of shit on this planet that will tear you up.
Yeah.
And I think people lost the ability to know what kind of risks are involved and about being in the territories of things that could actually eat you while you were still alive.
Yeah. Not only that, but one, I think taking for granted that you can be eaten, there are animals that can take you on. And two, I feel like they are now places where we maybe wouldn't even have expected them. I think I just saw, wasn't there an article or something that was there was a gator found in Lake Erie?
Yes.
Who goes swimming in Lake Erie and thinks they're going to be eaten by an alligator? It's they're everywhere now.
I'm telling you, evolutional biology says that wherever there's a food source, there will be a predator. And so if gators need a lot of beefy people to feed on, Lake Erie is a place, right?
They got a taste for human and they want more.
Yeah. I say more gators in Lake Erie, not less.
Oh, God. What's worse, the gators or the bacteria in Lake Erie?
Either one will depopulate just as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But can you, when you see one of those videos pop up of either an animal, for instance, I watched a Komodo dragon and a gazelle of some kind.
Oh, God.
Where the dragon kind of latched on the hindquarters and started stripping the skin and muscle off of the hind end. And this poor little deer was like, I know it's food, but I'm looking at that deer thinking, he's in a bad spot.
Aww.
And I kind of feel bad for him being eaten alive. Come on, let's make a pact that if you're going to eat something, let's kill it first, right?
Yeah.
Put it out of its
real quick.
But imagine something gnawing on your leg and you're still alive, but it's not like a bear, for instance. You're in the woods hiking, you're in your tent, a bear comes along, grabs your leg out of your tent, and you're like, dude, don't do this. And it's like, I'm hungry, dude. Just sit back. And it just starts eating you while you're alive.
Oh, God. It's like a snake. Don't snakes do that? Can you imagine being an enormous anaconda just working on swallowing you?
Well, I think an anaconda's gonna push the air out of you and make you pass out. So when it eats you, you'll at least be not conscious. But bears don't care. Bears are dicks. Bears will eat you while you're alive. I've watched fish as they're swimming away. It eating part of it while the fish is going dude, I don't like this.
Oh, that's so sad. And sometimes I'll watch things years ago I saw on the Discovery Channel, I think it was a wolf was coming after, I don't know, a baby elk or something like that. And it's showing how it stalks its prey and it comes after. And the whole time I'm sitting there no, get away. It's going to get away. It's going to get away. And then you see it pounce on it and you hear this poor little baby screaming.
Yes.
And it's talking about this is nature. The wolf has to eat too. This is what they do. And I was in tears. I was literally crying but it's just a cute little baby. And you want to root for them. The wolf's a bad guy. I hate it. I hate seeing that.
Well, okay. So let's do real talk here.
Okay.
So things that are alive have a progression where things that are weak are supposed to be killed so they don't breed, right?
Yeah.
And what we do, because we have compassion for things, we keep things that should have died alive, right? And then they end up breeding and creating more weak things. So then the predators are like, cool, bring it. They can't run fast? I got them, right? There's more of them than there needs to be. That's a great meal. So evolutionary biology doesn't really care about your feelings about what the suffering's going to be of the thing that shouldn't even be alive. Anyway, if we just focused on things that were smart, things that were fast, things that were strong, there would be a lot of us that wouldn't even be alive today.
Don't you think, though, the weak things have a purpose? I mean, they're there for a reason. They help other things.
Food. Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like there's always a predator that eats something that's
Yes.
considered weaker.
Yeah.
But that something eats something else that's considered weaker, and so on. But all of these things help other things.
Yeah. Being that only the smart and the strong propagate, and the rest of them just become food for the other things.
So what happens if only the smart and the strong survive and they run out of food? They turn on
No,
each
the
other?
smart and the strong will find food. That's what makes them smart and strong. Like, you're not supposed to, we're talking from a completely evolutionary biology thing. It is in our DNA, right, that we are not to keep alive things that are weak. It just does not fit in the whole scheme of things when there are predators above and below us.
That just sounds so sad.
It does. and when I said we're on a dark path, I meant it.
It's getting really dark and sad.
So as we create more, longevity for things that really shouldn't even be alive, and I'm talking even about in the animal kingdom, when a photographer is watching the weak, hurt animal get eaten, like, biology doesn't want that thing to make more of itself, because that just creates weakness in that population. So it's like human beings. Do you think there are a lot of human beings that should not be alive that were allowed to be alive and has weakened the genetics of all of humanity?
That's interesting. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I still kind of go back to that whole mindset that even though something in one aspect would be considered weak, in another aspect is useful, or maybe is not, or maybe has a purpose.
Well, and that's what civilization's job is to protect the weak, right? If they're smart. Like, you have the guy that with the beakers, and he can't fend the jaguars, and you have the guy that, is hefty, knows the role that the beaker guy plays, and he keeps them alive. They play the role. But there's some, and this is my fear with AI, that's going to start judging human beings by what they contribute to society.
Oh, gosh.
If you're not filling some kind of role, you're expendable. Just like, a predator would do, where you're expendable because you're slow, and then slow people don't breed, and then there's less slow people for those predators, and then the predators have to also get stronger in the same route. But I think we're at a disadvantage because we lose focus with the fact that there are things that are absolutely going to kill us and could kill us, and so the Lake Erie alligator. Okay, most of the people want to kill the Lake Erie alligator because they could take people out of the population, people who are susceptible to being eaten by an alligator when there's one.
Yeah.
Like, I can see the dude who's walking over an entire pond of alligators, right?
Yeah.
If he's really good at walking, then he doesn't die. The people who are bad at walking die, and then there are people who are bad at walking get taken out of the genetics pool.
Yeah. But again, should they be taken out of the genetics pool? I'm guessing your thing is yes.
Well, if nature is deciding, then absolutely, 100%.
What about in the instances where, because there is a weakness somewhere, they have it's overcompensated with another strength, like something else. Senses, for example, they say, like, if you can't see, you have incredible hearing, or vice versa, like other senses will take over. So then wouldn't that then sort of take away the whole aspect of it being the weaker one and say, okay, well, now it's strong in this aspect?
Well, we're apathetic, right? And so, like I said, the warrior's not protecting the beaker guy because there's a sense where the beaker guy doesn't realize that he's in a natural environment that wants to take him out, and he needs more protections than the warrior guy who can defend themselves. So in a good civilization, we kind of honor that evolution and know that every day you should die, right? The whole world, from the case of whether or not you're vaccinated, and whether or not your immune system's compromised, and whether or not you're intelligent enough to make a living for yourself, Like, should those people die? Right? Well, somebody has to acknowledge the fact that those people are important enough I'm going to take the arrows and slings for this person because it's worthwhile to keep those people alive. So how many people would keep you alive? If it came down to a threatening environment where we got to keep a Kelin alive for some reason, would you be valued enough from a natural standpoint for someone to say, she's important enough that she might not be able to defend herself, but she's worthy of defending?
I hope so.
It's another form of evolution.
I hope there's a handful of people that would say that.
And we have infrastructure, relational infrastructure that does protect weak people, but because we acknowledge that they have some kind of strength.
Yeah, because don't you think sometimes the weakness, though, is even so much, it's not innate, it's not something they're born with. Maybe there's a particular weakness because of the area they're in, the resources they have, or have the ability to get. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the strength and the weakness is so subjective. Like, there are multiple factors that go into considering whether something is weak or strong, and those factors can change.
But the natural world balances that out. You will see what's revealed, right, by whether or not they get picked off by and that's the thing, like, very important to say how nature treats things and how sophisticated civilizations treat things. Mm-hmm. And if nature judges something that it shouldn't exist, like you're a dinosaur and you're really big and you got to eat a lot of things, and when there's plentiful food, you live, and when there's not so plentiful, you die. When you go out, mathematically, you say, okay, well, there was only one circumstance where the dinosaurs live, and there's one circumstances that say that they no longer belong on this earth. Same can be said about human beings. And mm-hmm. I think, like I said, the scariest part of AI is that we are going to be judged mathematically more than emotionally. If you're not a contributor and it can be mathematically measured that you're not a good contributor, then you consume more resources than you supply. Like, you're kind of, disposable.
Yeah, because that's going to be interesting. If you're sort of like judged on paper, so to speak, what are those? What's that criteria? How does it know? Yeah, that's going to be insane. Like,
okay, so a 90-year-old person that's sitting in a hospital bed that needs a heart to be able to live another year. A 40-year-old person that needs that same heart, and we'll let them live another 30 years. You have one heart, you got to pick one of those two people to put on the operating table and give them the heart. Now, it seems like a really terrible choice because you're choosing live or die. Mm-hmm. Do you pick the one that has a higher potential to give more because of that heart? Or do you let the 90-year-old pass away and not get that heart?
Then again, that's basing it solely on age and expected time here with that heart. What if the 90-year-old is a super intelligent, innovative scientist that is making extremely important contributions to society by simply having his brain and being alive? And the 40-year-old is like, I'm Tommy and I live in my mom's basement and I don't do anything and I don't even like people. So I'll probably just take this heart and go do my own thing and screw everyone else.
All right, so that same dude who's a drinker, a smoker, doesn't take care of his health, he's in his 40s, he doesn't contribute to society, and the 90-year-old who really tries to stay healthy, mm-hmm. Now we have different metrics to say who deserves the heart and who deserves to pass on.
Mm-hmm. So weird.
But that's what AI is going to do, is it's going to actually be able to take different measurements to see how much you deserve that heart. And it may not be age. It might be, how much you care for, this body, this vessel that you carry around. Yeah. Would you want to be judged by a piece of software that can analyze you and take multiple data points on how much value you can get about saving person one versus person two? And would it change your behaviors? If you knew that live or die meant that you had to be a better human being, would it make you want to be a better human being?
Yeah, because like you said, if there's not the ability to have the emotional aspect involved, it is your actions and solely your actions.
100%. That's how you would be judged by.
Measurable actions.
In utopia, we want to save everybody.
Yeah.
But if put down where you got to choose 2 cards and you only have certain amount of metrics to decide those things, like we're going to get very scientific on there, just like nature would get scientific. Who deserves to live, right? The person who can survive. That's what, it's not me talking. That's nature talking. And the person that can survive needs to breed and create more survivors. And the people who can't survive. And it's tough because you can't argue with an alligator. There's nothing
Yeah.
you can say that if he has a feast and he's going to pick the runt, the small one, the person who didn't escape, that's nature right there. And nature is an asshole that way.
I feel like that's the title of your next book. You can't argue with an alligator.
Can't argue with an alligator. So back to the original thing. You see these. I'm not even gonna call it dehumanizing, but we get a sense for when you see an animal, you sort of give it like human attributes where you actually feel bad that it's being eaten. The salmon is a human, the lamb is a human, the small deer is a human, the giraffe that's got a hobble is a human, because you feel like what it would be like to be eaten by that predator.
I remember being a kid, my brother found a snake and a frog, and the snake was actively eating the frog that was still alive, and he was like beating the snake and getting it off of him and freeing the frog. And on one hand you're like, oh yeah, save the little frog. On the other hand you're like, he's sort of already badly injured, like, is saving him now going to be beneficial, or do you just let this happen?
All right, so what if like some super giant came along and see that you had your plate of chicken, right? And you're like, you're an asshole for eating a chicken, starts beating you over the head, and you're like, I'm just trying to have a meal here,
I'm trying
dude.
to survive.
I'm trying to survive. Why are you saving the chicken? Why do you like the chicken more than the super sophisticated human that's got the fork in his hand?
Well, do you think humans have a tendency to sort of root for the underdog?
For sure.
And we sort of, when it came down to having the strong and the smart and the capable survive versus the lesser, will we always want to support the lesser?
So if you saw a person who was an underachiever, but they were smart, they were a human being, and you saw a bear who was like, winter's coming, I need a meal to fatten up a little bit. Who do you root for? Do you root for the human or do you root for the bear?
Probably depends on if you are a human or a bear.
And if you shit talked me in the last 6 months, like I'm rooting for the bear.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, you're kind of a dick, so let's bring in
bear
this bear. Bear's got to eat.
But I just wonder in the future, as we kind of like take emphasis out of the predator-prey dynamic, and we get comfortable in knowing that, like, we go to Alaska, that you are going to deal with. I've been hiking so many times in areas where I know that there are things in the woods that I can't see that would really like to kill me. Oh, God. And I haven't been killed yet.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. But I know that I've been eyeballed by a predator a time or two when I've been in these places. You ever see like Yellowstone where the tourist like jumps the fence and walks up to a buffalo? And you're like, stupid, the buffalo wasn't pursuing you, but the buffalo is absolutely going to kill you.
Yeah.
Because you're stupid and you don't realize, and people who don't realize that you could be gored by a buffalo maybe deserve to die. Maybe a lack of intelligence. Maybe we need to take them out of the gene pool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in that case, if you're going to put yourself in this situation...
Can you feel bad? You can't. You really can't.
Yeah, you're like, that was dumb, dude, and now the buffalo's going to... You can't feel bad, because you know what happens in that situation? In order to save the human, somebody then kills the buffalo.
And you're like, dude, he was just freaking eating grass.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the dumb human that deserves the penalty.
I mean, kind of all these shark attacks that we're seeing now. All these people are like, oh my God, what are we doing with all these shark attacks and all these sharks that are near the beach? And it's like, well, you're in their home. They didn't ask you to come swimming in their beach or come do whatever or come boating or that's where they live. That's what they do. So whose fault is it?
They are programmed to eat things. And if you're in their home, your potential of being eaten go up. Mm-hmm. And so like, what are you going to do? Look at the lifeguard like he's supposed to protect you from being consumed by the thing that's in the area that you're in and is just hungry?
And what's even more interesting sometimes too is, so those are obvious predators, obviously dangerous. But what about the instances that people think dogs are fine? Oh, well, it's a dog. I like dogs. I've had a dog. Or, it's this cat, or it's whatever that is presumed to be innocent. Then you get bit or you get mauled, and you almost want to be like, it's an animal. It's an animal. Do we forget? I feel like in some situations we forget this was a wild animal that you got in the face of because it wasn't a shark or a bear or something so obviously dangerous.
You're driving around and you see some roadkill on the side of the road.
Oh, God.
That was a living thing at one time. But yet every human being drives by and it's just roadkill to them. Or if there was a body on the side of the road of a human being, we feel the association would be different. Like we wouldn't just let it sit there and rot and let the crows eat it.
Yeah.
Right? But that little raccoon, it's just a wild animal. Like somebody else's responsibility to deal with that living thing.
Oh, how weird.
Do you feel bad?
If you found a dead body on the side of the road?
Yeah, people were like, oh, someone else got hit. Like, I guess the road crew will take care of that, shovel them into the back of a
Something's
pickup.
going to come by and eventually eat that.
Yeah, So here's another thing. So we bury all of our people in caskets, right? And we preserve their bodies so that they just, I don't know, sit there as embalmed people forever.
Or you burn them into ashes.
Or burn them in ashes.
Yeah.
But people really should be eaten. They should be, once your life is gone, I feel like you should be a meal for something. Like, who cares? It's wasted meat.
Meal for something human? Other than I feel like if you're in the ground, you're kind of probably going to be a meal for something.
But think of the insects and the animals that would say, yes, that's all me. And so it's wasted meat for other, and I'm not going to say predators, but they're just parasite, type of other smaller organisms that are programmed to break down a decomposing body. Like the raccoon on the side of the road becomes a meal for about 50 different things, right? Maybe even more than that. Bacterias and insects and, other scavengers. Well, a human being could be that. And think of all the meat that is wasted from those same animals.
Have you ever heard of turning people into trees or I don't even know how it works when they die, planting their body
I love
in
that.
a tree or
I
something.
Love that.
Have you heard of this?
Yes.
I don't know how
That's
this
what's supposed
works,
to happen. All of the most nutritious parts of us are supposed to cycle in with the growth of trees and nutrition back into the soil. We eat all of these meats and vegetation that's supposed to put those nutrients back. Like a lot of our problems would get solved if we just allow ourselves to be decomposed naturally.
So how do you want to be buried? Do you want to be like part of a tree? You want to be like, do you cremate someone and then mix them with soil? Or do you just put them in the ground without anything around them? Or
I wouldn't mind being compost. I think that would be, I would feel like I'm a participant in the life of other things. And after my vessel's gone, what do I care?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to dig up your relative and have a meet and greet? Right?
Yeah.
Once it's put in the ground, it's nothing. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm torn on it because I know AI is going to judge us. I know that we don't contribute back to nature how we should, either being a source of nutrition for the prey or at least putting ourselves back in the cycle again of life. And so we're just apathetic. We just think we're safe when there's so many things trying to kill us. And I don't think nature is ever thwarted. I think the weaker we make ourselves, right, the more susceptible we are to animal attacks, to bacteria and virus infections. And it's just a matter of time before that balances out.
Do you find yourself watching videos or reading things on how to survive different attacks, knowing full well that your odds of being in front of some animal are pretty low? Like, I just saw a short video online the other day, and it was like, what to do if an alligator has your leg. So I was like, I better watch this. What am I going to do?
I think more humans should figure out those potentials. I think we've gotten so just comfortable that there aren't things trying to kill us.
Yeah, we probably need to start maybe teaching in schools survival methods.
For sure.
Why do I need I don't know, certain, I was going to say a math subject, but I'm sure there's a reason we need that. But, certain things in school could we do away with and instead put like survival? If shit hits the fan, all your electronics are gone, everything you were raised around is gone, every, cheat sheet thing you have to get by in life is gone. Can you survive? Or if you're only a certain age or older, you're the only one that has learned any skills. Everybody else has been sort of handed their items, their information.
So as a prepper, I don't like that because that's just competition. If the more people that are involved that know what they're doing, the less likely that I can compete with them. So I would like more dumb people so that I can live rather than having more people that might be better, faster, stronger than me competing with me.
Well, what happens though if something happens to you? You're not dead, but now you are going to be reliant on the competency of others, but you didn't want them to become smarter or to learn or to be resourceful, or so you almost like have to have a backup system or, some people around that you can rely on, wouldn't you think?
And that's part of the hedging the bets, where if you're the beaker guy who knows that he can't, defend himself against the bear, that you got to use the people who are good fighting bears in trade for something else. And it again, like there's no good answer here. You're basically going to buy into an outcome, and if you're right, you're going to survive, and if you're not, you're going to be the alligator eating person. One more topic. I know.
These stressful ideas.
Eugenics.
Eugenics. The supplement?
No, the eugenics, the bad eugenics.
Uh-oh. What is that?
So eugenics is what the Nazis did with trying to breed out things genetically that they did not think were superior to other genetic tendencies.
Isn't there a supplement called eugenics?
It's close.
It's something along that.
It's not eugenics because that's bad branding.
Okay, well, it sounds like that
Very
word.
similar.
It sounds like
so
it.
Eugenics are when somebody's able to take the DNA and they're able to take things out of creating new life and removing certain things. Like if you had, some kind of mental handicap or physical handicap, you can find out where the genetic stream that's located and remove all people from that stream. You can take it to a deal where, like maybe we like only blonde hair, blue-eyed people. And so anybody who's not blonde hair, blue-eyed isn't created. So you have a whole, you take the profile of the perfect human being, and then when you want to have a baby, you go to the eugenics, roadside stand, and you create a perfect baby. Like all the things you want in a baby. You want high intelligence. You want, physical, you want physical and mental. And so you can basically put your order in for what kind of baby you would have, and then geneticists put together the perfect baby and deliver it to you, rather than these arbitrary weaknesses that you're likely to create if you did it naturally.
Create your own, superhuman race.
Superhuman being.
Oh, and that seems so wrong.
But when that's an option, how many people are going to be like, let me roll the dice of genetics and maybe get something that's less than...
Yeah. If someone's like, well, you could either have children naturally, or you can guarantee that they will be everything you wanted.
You can get 100% of everything you wished for.
Oh, I feel like that's kind of like a spiritual decision. Do you believe that it's pure luck and you get what you get and you hope it's good and maybe intervene if you can? Or is it whatever you're given you are meant to have? You're meant to have that child. It's, predisposed. Yeah.
So the Nazis took it to the opposite level, where rather than creating life in the image that was perfect, it was eliminate the life so that it could never breed. Right.
Yeah.
So if you took, in the Nazis' case, they thought, Jewish people were impure. Mm-hmm. So if you just killed all Jewish people, then they would be eliminated from, the human race. So if you were selecting what version of that was considered optimal, then you can create just the optimal people who were strong, fast, smart. Because you wouldn't have to then determine the beaker guy and the guy that can survive. You could just create a beaker survival guy. And you wouldn't have to worry about the compromise between human beings to protect one another.
Doesn't this kind of sound like, though, it would make a pretty boring society? If everybody was on the same level and the same, speed, so to speak, and everybody kind of was very similar, and don't you think this would be kind of uninteresting?
Well, the two books that I cite to my kid and I have discussions about this almost every single day. Two books that are most relevant in discussions like this are Animal Farm and Utopia, right? Because it teaches us everything about the pursuit of perfection, right? And then when you get perfection, it's actually worse than imperfection. And sometimes our imperfection defines us as who we are. We're built for the imperfection.
Yeah.
Even though we pursue it. It's like we talked about last time, where, if you had a hard upbringing that you want to deliver perfection to your kids, where you want to root out the things that build their character and build their strength, well, then you put them at a disadvantage when you try for the utopia version of what you think they should have, where they should have just enough friction in order to build up strength, right? But not as much comfort that they become weakness.
Yeah, because you kind of almost start to eliminate things like empathy and grace and the desire to care for people and the desire to... I feel like this eliminates so many human emotions and experiences. It would be like we're becoming the robots.
Think of this as a pendulum, right? Human existence means that it always draws back to a certain point, and its absolute opposite is where it swings to. And you can basically 100% predict where that pendulum is going to flow next by how far you pull it back in that other direction. So if you pull it close to utopia, it doesn't have the ability naturally to survive in utopia forever. It swings back into the chaos, the entropy that's necessary to make utopia possible for a one snapshot is going to make that chaos equal. More perfect, the more chaotic. Every single time.
Mind-blowing.
Do you have anything less heavy to talk about today? Because I will give you the floor yet again.
Man, less heavy.
We talked about eugenics and alligators eating people in Lake Erie.
Still kind of always resort back to cannibalism too, though. Like
I will tell you that definition. You ready? When you give me the ability to bring up the topic, we go cannibalism. When you bring up the topic, it's softer and more palatable by everyone.
My topics are like, oh, someone on social media annoyed me today. And you're like, well, let's eat them.
You are absolutely right. That's why the pendulum is we go cannibalism, but then we go feel goods, and it's your turn.
Feel goods.
What do you, or just give me some kind of
I'm just
pet peeve or whatever.
You know what's just been on my brain a lot lately? The fact that fall is coming, aka Halloween is coming, and I am ready for some like creepy stuff. I want some like creepy, ghost hunty, spirit-filled, scary something in my life. I don't know why. I guess it's just 'tis the season, but I'm just like itching for some like fall fun, Halloween-related mischief, and I think we need to like conjure some of that up in the very near future.
Why? Why?
I think it's exciting. It's fun. I will say it's fun until I'm alone. Like for years I've said I love scary movies, I love haunted houses, I love creepy ghost things, and the moment I have to be like alone in the bathroom washing my face and my eyes closed, like something's coming up behind me. Or if I have to get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, something's in my closet. I just know it, and I scare myself, and then I hate myself for watching the scary thing or going to do the scary thing. But I feel like it's so intriguing. And not everybody feels this way, which is kind of interesting. To me, it's like, don't you find it fascinating and intriguing and exciting? And others are like, nope, don't want any part of that. Where would you say you lie? Are you kind of like a, yeah, it's fun, let's do stuff like that? Or are you like a, don't mess with that, it's bad news? Absolutely not.
That's a natural part of who we are. Being afraid piques our senses and develops what we do in situations that feel like threaten us. And it's safe to watch a scary movie because you know it's not real. I mean, Kelin thinks it might be real because she's in the bathroom saying
Yes.
Bloody Mary.
I
You
did
don't
as a kid.
You don't get to the third one because you know what's up if that happens.
You don't say
But we will-
Candyman 3 times.
No,
you don't do it.
We tangle with it to a point where we think our safety, like there's a bear out there, like we will toe up to the bear, and this is like parlaying in with the fear of being eaten by an animal for sure.
Yeah.
We like the fear up to a certain point, but when the fear gets threatening where you think it might be realized, right, then we back off quite a bit. So what's your tolerance for fear? Like, could you... all right, so fearful situations. Let me hit you with this.
Okay.
So let's put you in a fearful situation and tell me how likely you would live or die.
Okay.
Okay? It's Halloween night
Oh.
and it's dark outside. The phone rings and says, "I'm watching you."
Oh, God.
The doorbell rings. Do you open it?
No!
No.
I call the police.
You call the police.
Yeah.
But in the movie, why do they open the freaking door?
Oh, because they're stupid. I would probably look out the peephole. Or
And he
try-
stabbed you through the people with a shiv, and now you're blind,
like, but then there's something that comes
bleeding,
through that.
and now less likely to defend your door. All right,
All right, people.
Here's another one. Another scary one, more like cliche movie thing.
Okay.
You're home alone. It's Halloween night. The full moon is out.
Why do I gotta be alone?
There's a noise in the basement. Do you check it out?
My first instinct was no, but it's in the house. What kind of noise? Like an inexplicable noise.
Yeah,
Not like a, oh, that could have been.
Something down there made a noise.
My first reaction is call someone.
Call the police again.
Yeah, police
In
or
the
a neighbor
movies,
or
they explore every single time.
and they run like you've always heard the cliche. You run upstairs. Now you've cornered yourself. Where are you gonna go? Nowhere.
Well, the stupidity of Halloween movies illustrates where human beings are at in the mode of survival. We will do exactly opposite that would logically put us in a better place. Because
Yeah.
everybody will yell at the TV and say, "Don't go down there. Go anywhere else." You know what? Your neighbor doesn't have anything in his basement. Go there for
Yeah.
a little bit.
Oh, and on that same wavelength, I feel like I hate when, let's say it's not like an unseen or a supernatural thing. Let's say it's like the main character just discovered the bad guy. You know, you're the bad guy. I know what you're doing. I'm going to fool your plan. And they tell the bad guy this. They say, "I know it's you. I know you did this. And now I'm going to call the police and I'm going to get you in trouble." And I'm like, don't tell them that, because then of course the bad guy comes after them. "Well, I'll just shoot you then, or I'll do this." It's like, no, you got to act like you don't know. Play dumb and then go get the police and tell them everything. Why would you just reveal to the killer, who you are alone with, by the way, that, oh, you know everything and you're going to go to the cops?
That's and it's not even scary movies. My objection with movies is when the dude has to kill another dude and he gets the jump on him and draws the gun and doesn't just freaking shoot.
He holds him at gunpoint.
And has
You're
a
like, "Just kill
conversation,
him."
right?
Yeah.
Every movie is now you've given the opportunity to get the gun kicked out or anything else to happen. You had the drop, you had the gun, just freaking shoot and stop talking.
Oh, and do it more than once. Like, what's this? Oh, I shot him in the leg and then went about my business thinking they're going to be dead. Like, you got to make sure they're dead, because if they get up, you're dead.
In schools, part of the survival is testing to see if somebody's dead. It is not hard. If you shoot somebody, you don't leave that body until there's a lack of respiration and there's no heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Stand over that body and take their pulse. And if there's a pulse, they're like, "Oh, job unfinished." Boom, hit him again.
Well, how many times have you seen someone shoot the bad guy, they go down, the person goes and leaves the room and then comes back and the
bad guy's there
gone.
again. You had the chance.
Yeah.
Lots of wasted opportunities in movies. And those cliches make us feel like the one-shot kill is going to do it, but there's always a jump scare at the end.
Yes. Like, where'd they go? And then here they are behind you. And
Just lack of logic, lack of intelligence.
We need like a realistic movie. I think that's why. That's instances like those are why I prefer the scary movies that have to do with like ghosts and demons and things of that nature. Because I feel like a killer, you've got options. If it's a human murderer, bad guy, serial killer, you've got options to get away, to kill them, whatever. But if it's like a demon, what are you going to do? You can't shoot him. What are you going to do? That's why it's so creepy.
And those are the fun ones where it's so outlandish. Part of your body knows that that's not a real situation you'll ever be in. But
is it though? Is it?
Maybe. But it's fun to contemplate if you were put in that position where you were negotiating with a demon. What value would you have to Mr. Demon?
Yeah. Do you believe in possession and exorcisms?
As part of the multiverse, I do.
What does that mean?
Part of the multiverse is when you get a connection with something that's not of your world, but it is something else, and you're trying to figure out its connection with the world that you're actually living in.
So, yes?
I'm going with yes.
See, that's interesting to me, is can that stuff really happen? To my core, I am a skeptic. So it would really have to be something really inexplicable that I witnessed myself. Otherwise, there's a logical explanation for everything. But I am still very intrigued by stories of that nature and movies that have to do with that. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to love playing with Ouija boards. And the older I got, the more I heard, you're not supposed to do that. You better leave that stuff alone. That causes problems. And I'm like, you're telling me this game I bought at Toys R Us, Milton Bradley can summon a demon. No, I don't believe that. I don't even know if I believe in
So all you
demons.
got to do is, you remember the How It's Made program on Discovery Channel?
I remember, I know of it.
So they profile different products, and you watch them on the assembly line to see how they're put together. So if you watch the Ouija board being put together, if it went from like cardboard to little plastic filament, and it went under a pyramid where some kind of like crystal was projecting some kind of energy into it, then it would make sense that they put the energy in it. That's a Ouija board that's working. But if it's a piece of cardboard and you have to like give it its spiritual value, it's probably just a piece of cardboard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. For years, when I was a kid, my friend and I would play with Ouija boards, or we called it an angel board. It's basically the same thing, but we would make it ourselves. Piece of cardboard, you write the alphabet, you write numbers on it, you find a glass or something you can see through, and you try to summon spirits or whatever. For years, it worked. And we were freaked out. Every sleepover, we would have our friends there, and this thing would move and talk, and it was like somebody named AJ that we talked to for a couple of years, and all these creepy things would happen. And I would say maybe in high school, my friend finally admitted she was always moving it. And I said, but what about when this happened? What about, because there was like a coincidental thing that happened that freaked us all out one time. And she was like, that was a coincidence, but I was moving it. I was always moving it. And I'm like, you son of a, I was so disappointed.
Listen, at the Ouija board table, there is always the naive who's there along for the ride. Then there are the people who are finding out who their asshole friend is. And that's all we're doing, is we're trying to figure out which one of the friends is actually moving it.
I don't even know if I'd say I was the naive. I was just I really want this to work. And deep down, I know it's not, but it's fun.
You just you didn't change the term at all. I'm sorry.
It was fun. I was like...
But if you wanted a test to find out which one of your friends were assholes, a Ouija board is really it.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. You're like, let's all pick up our hands and see whose hands are still touching it, and that's the asshole that's moving it. Let's test them to find out which one. Yeah. Every friend group has that jerk. Every one of them. It was
so fun though. And everybody tells me that's not fun. That's bad news. It's you're feeding into this dark side, and you're giving it what it wants by showing that you're curious. And I'm just like, am I though?
So anybody listening to this that wants to do the Ouija board, here's what you do. Get the same group of friends, right? Mm-hmm. And put the little puck in the middle and say, listen, demon bitch, we're not touching it. If you're not a pussy. Use your energy to move this thing without any of us touching it. And if anybody out in our listening audience can say it moved without anybody touching it, give me video proof. Otherwise, it's one of your asshole friends and it doesn't work.
Well, not just video proof. I want to watch it. Because to me, like, what if there's a fishing line? What if this video is edited? Again, I'm very skeptical. But that would be cool. That would be
100%
cool.
It's the asshole friend.
Yeah.
I don't think
I've never seen it actually
listen,
work.
Demons have jobs, right? And they're very serious. And they're not going to dick around while you're playing your Hasbro Ouija board and contribute. They're not down for that.
From Toys R Us.
They're not. They're going to wait for a more opportune moment than some dipshit teenagers to communicate with. Like, what's the worst impact that they can have in the world by communicating from the least of our society? You're not going to pick teenagers.
And making it so obvious. I feel like if there is evil, if there are evil entities in the world, would they not be more, what's the word? Manipulative, more, they're going to, do something that will work a little better than being so obvious.
They're going to select politicians, as they always have throughout history, to get stuff done. So your politics, let's do a test on them to see how demonic they are.
Yeah.
This is that little dig. That was a good one.
If you had to, and you don't have to answer this because I know you're going to get heat from the internet. Answer if you want to.
Oh, I'm in. You know me.
You had to name a politician that you think could possibly be or have ever been demon possessed, who do you think might be?
I'm going to say Bernie Sanders.
Really?
Bernie Sanders is the most demonic.
Do tell. How so?
So, like, demons, especially in movies, are really hard to fit in with the profile. They try to assimilate and become a real politician, but they're an alien. Right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at the landscape of which one is not like the other thing, Bernie Sanders is the worst. Like, he doesn't look right. He doesn't sound right. His policies aren't right. He's way off in left field. He's the demon.
He's sort of like if you watch Men in Black, the alien that
100%.
slipped into a body.
The skin's just not sitting right. They're not speaking the same language. They're not really trying to fit in. And it's not because they can't. It's because they're so foreign to be a human being. They stand out. So Bernie Sanders is a demon.
Any others? Any celebrities? Any?
Who would I pick as
maybe
a
even
celebrity?
local people? Listen, internet, we're not saying go and accuse these people of being demons, but just for sake of conversation.
It's a hypothesis. It's worth testing.
Who else might be demon possessed?
Who is dislike all of the... I would say Elon Musk is definitely either an alien or a demon.
Yeah?
Can't fit in, doesn't speak right, doesn't look like anybody else, does things that are well beyond the capabilities of whatever. He's either an alien or a demon. But they're the same to me. Aliens and demons are from another multiverse, so it's all the same.
So for you, when you say demon, you don't mean they're like evil.
No.
They are just not of...
this dimension.
Okay. So we could just say like, alternate being... We're not saying demon as in they're a terrible person.
No.
They're just different.
Yeah. You would be a demon if you went to anywhere as being an outsider. You would do things that are not accepted by wherever you went just because you don't know any better. So on a planet full of high intelligence things that, are just measure things by their ability to put output in the value of an economy, and you start killing people off, like that's totally acceptable back in, Demonville.
Demonville.
And, we don't gauge people by their, emotional contributions. It's what you can do for the village kind of thing. And that would be accepted as demonic just because it's so irregular from what status quo would say.
See, now I'm picturing all these people like who could have been a different entity that slid into a body and made it not look so right. And I'm like, Gary Busey.
I could see that.
Oh, what's his name? I just had it. Oh my God, who's the actor? Big eyes, bad teeth, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
The guy that played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody.
I know who you're talking about, the wild hair guy.
Yeah, he's got like big eyes and stuff. Oh my God, all these people were like, I feel bad saying it's just because they don't look quite right.
Well, that's what a demon would do. They would struggle to put on their human suit to look like a human being, but they just aren't pulling it off. Like in Men in Black, the dude that puts on the skin suit.
Yeah.
He
it's
doesn't
like
move,
it's on crooked.
Doesn't move right. The
and
skin. Yeah, that's
awkward.
all of the attributes of somebody trying to be human, but really is not human. There's a lot of them out there.
God, I was just going to say, if you go based off of, they look like somebody who's trying to be human, but not quite succeeding. I feel like there's a ton now.
So you're okay, let's do a time traveler sequence.
Okay.
You go back in time. You have all the knowledge. You take all of your memories. You know things more, and you go back to 1850. You know about the sciences. You know about the technologies, right? Mm-hmm. So you then have to not out yourself as a person from 2024. So you have to mask the fact that you know certain things that would out you in front of those people, and they probably burn you at the stake, right?
Yeah.
How would you behave? Well, you'd be measured in what you would do. So if you, like Nikola Tesla, I think he's an alien too, and probably one of those demons. He had mathematics that were beyond the capabilities of it. He's making a remote control boat in the late 1800s, right? Remote control boat today would be like, oh, remote control boat? My kid could do that. But the 1800s, that was magic. So how would you, now he didn't care, so he made the remote control boat, and they thought he was some kind of magician. So you, in that same respect, could be a demon, and that's how they would treat you.
So do you believe in people like psychics and mediums and things that claim to know certain things? Is that hogwash, or could it be that they just know about some other dimension or could contact someone from another dimension? Do you think there's any truth to people like that?
I literally think if you drill your interest into something to such an extent, anybody can create a specialty in any environment. So if you're like, let's just say I want to be the best night sleeper ever, and all I did was study sleep, learn the sciences of sleep, and you turn around and you're like the sleeping expert, you can do magical things that no one else can do because you drilled your interest in that one thing. So if I'm like, dude, spirituality interests me, let me learn everything about it and connect with things. Well, the difference is that you're dedicating 8 hours of your day to being connected with spirituality, and literally no one else is. And that's the difference. Anybody could do that. It's just a matter of where you invest your time.
So it's almost like it could be something that you develop, I guess.
All of it, yeah.
Rather than just something that happens to you.
Yep.
Is there ever an instance you think something happens?
There are some people in history that sort of like did not earn into that knowledge, and it seemed like it came easier to them. But I think that's with everybody. Some people are better socially. Some people are better financially. And I think the gifts of genetics means that you have a predisposition to being good at certain things. And historically, if we look at your family tree, you can kind of figure out, it makes sense that the people who bred were also good at the same stuff that you are. And, so there's a guy good at being the warrior and the guy that good at being the beaker. And that's just how humans are made.
So do you think there's, I'm sure you've heard of the term like spiritual gifts. Is that a thing you think? Is it something bestowed upon you? Or is it like, I have this gift because it was just something I was interested in and sort of got good at unknowingly?
You quoted it. You said that you are a cynic. Right? And
skeptical.
Skeptical.
Yeah.
So you being a skeptic means that you would be less likely to like drill into something with an open mind. So I think people are born with more skepticism towards certain things, which keep them from finding the specialty. And there's other people who are like, I'm all in. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to see what's right and see what's wrong. And when they drill in, there's some farces. There's in every civilization, there are people who are just scammy and trying to sell you snake oil, right?
Yep.
But do I think there are true authentics, so the people who are willing to go beyond the depths of other people to get to truths that none of us would sacrifice the time to get? Absolutely. I think those are your people.
Yeah, see,
I think you're born with it.
That's the thing is I need proof. I need something to satisfy my skepticism because, like you said, there are so many people that you can't trust, that are just full of shit, but at the same time, so intrigued that it's like, ooh, but let me go see. Or let me talk to this person who is probably crazy, but might say something neat. Let me go do this, I don't know, ghost hunt, knowing, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but it seems cool, and what if? Let me play with this Ouija board. I don't honestly think that a demon's going to come out of the Ouija board. But what if? I have this like huge interest in things like that.
All human beings do. And you could play this sort of like card game, right? Mm-hmm. And you can sort of like measure your level of skepticism in a certain area. And so if you wanted to drill into a specialty, you would probably, where your natural skepticism isn't already there. So if somebody came up to you and said, the world is flat, if your brain goes into, no, it's not, then you're not going to derive a specialty in pushing on linear physical things, right? But if they're like, ghosts exist, if your brain's like, maybe that's one that you will more naturally be able to dig deep enough to kind of come up with the answers. Finance and humanities and whatever are the same thing. But why we're resistant to it, I bet you there is an evolutionary reason why something in our lineage decided to tell us that was not a good pursuit, and then build sort of almost a defense or a barrier so that you don't go down crazy lanes, right?
Yeah.
But there are crazy lanes that you will absolutely hit, and you'll be able to drill into that same energy.
Oh, yeah, because some of the things it's like, oh, I'd love to dig into this, or this seems really interesting, but deep down it's like, that's crazy. That doesn't happen. That's not real.
100%.
And then but what if? But what if it is? I can't wait for Halloween.
All of your curiosities end up at that place. And I wish more people would, sort of like just be nice to those curiosities and don't try to defend. And worst case is you get to the bottom of the spiral and you find a little truth. And then you're like, okay, well, that was not, let's pick another one because that one sucks.
Yeah.
So much information that not a single human being could take it all in and be good at everything or be advised of everything.
So our next show, are we going to have the Ouija board?
I'm not doing a Ouija board. It's such a waste of time. Just like if I said, hey, next on our show, let's play Monopoly. Like, I'm not going to do that either because that's
not fun like a Ouija board is.
It is fun if you're a capitalist. The spirits of capitalism will invoke the board into showing you how to dominate the other person and squash them with your prowess.
We have wildly different ideas of what is fun.
And that's what it is to be a human being. Boom!